Hello everyone, let's discuss today's The Hindu editorial page. The first article is Civil Society Under Siege in India. In this article, the writer says that a free civil space regulated under constitutionally guaranteed principles is the essence of democracy in India. However, constitutional freedoms are under siege, and it will be important to recognize and protect these freedoms by social and political forces who repose their faith in the Constitution. The anti-communal and progressive civil space is under the most serious attack by the state, as this section of society will unite against Hindu nationalism under any party that offers the prospect of secularism, equal respect for all religions, and citizen well-being with economic growth. The scale of attack on 15 organizations, both small and large, relying on domestic and foreign donations, was explored. These organizations were viewed as either neutral, moderate, or strong regarding their views on minority rights, Dalit rights, Adivasi, tribal rights, and equity promotion. The findings suggest that organizations actively fighting against communalism were the most significantly under attack. Moderately attacked institutions are those whose activities have been severely curbed because of multiple attacks by the state. These include the Center for Policy Research, CPR, and a significant non-governmental organization, NGO, with American funding working in the non-communal space. Moderately attacked institutions also include fiercely anti-communal NGOs such as ANHAD. Some of the organizations in this area are even neutral on the anti-communal issue. An analysis of the moderate section in our scale suggests that the civil space has shrunk to such an extent that the Indian state is not even leaving a non-communal organization such as the CPR alone. The current chair of the Economic Advisory Council to the Prime Minister and the deputy chairman of the NITI Aayog are both from the CPR. One of the arguments against the CPR appears to be that it had some connections with the Adivasi rights movements that impacted the mining interests of the tycoon Gautam Adani. Institutions that have been impacted by relatively low levels of attacks are generally not active in the anti-communal area, even though they may be pursuing significant human rights causes. These are institutions that have been attacked by just one instrument. The tools of organizations such as Navsajan, which is a leader in Dalit rights, and Save the Children's work on child rights, are less compared to the ones that have been hit moderately or at a high level. The disciplining instruments deployed by the state can impact organizations. Greenpeace, for example, has transitioned from one that faced high-intensity attacks to one that has been hit moderately or at a high level. In conclusion, the state's actions have severely impacted the civil space of 15 organizations, including Amnesty International, Center for Equity Studies, Citizens for Justice and Peace, Lawyers Collective, and Save the Children's work on child rights. Recognizing and protecting these freedoms will be crucial for promoting democracy and ensuring the rights of all citizens. The next article is Breaking New Ground the Kerala Way. In this article, the writer says that, as 2024 begins, there is good news in the urban spectrum. After almost 38 years, there is another urban commission in Kerala, led by Charles Correa, one of India's finest architects. The first, the National Commission on Urbanization, was formed by Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi and was headed by Charles Correa. However, with Gandhi's assassination, some important recommendations were not taken into consideration. Since then, there has been a shift in policy paradigm for more private initiative and investment in urban development. More than half of the world's population lives in cities, 56%. The process of urbanization has led to phenomenal changes across the world, including climate change, spatial and temporal changes, such as massive land use, building typologies, iniquitous cities, duality, informality, pollution crisis, housing, water and sanitation challenges, and some of the most unequal city spaces. One of the major processes of capital accumulation is the process of city development. Post-independent India has witnessed two stark periods of development in the urban spectrum. The Nehruvian period lasted almost 3 decades and began unraveling in the late 1980s. During this period, around 150 new towns were built with a holistic city approach, a characteristic feature being a centralized planning mechanism emphasizing master plans, development plans. However, this process also failed miserably, as it was drawn by the core idea of the state acting as a basic instrument of capital accumulation, pushing millions of people from rural to urban spaces, with manufacturing as the driving force. The period of the 1990s saw the abject privatization of cities and global cities as the image on which the development process was built. Master plans were handed over to large parastatals, and big consultancy firms were hired to draw such plans. Instead of a whole city approach, a project-oriented approach was the guiding principle. The Jawaharlal Nehru National Urban Renewable Mission and the Smart Cities Mission were buzzwords. In such a background, the Urban Commission, formed in 1985, has to be revised and looked at. Piecemeal approaches will not help, and neither are making any breakthroughs. An urban commission is required at the national and state levels to understand some of the interesting objective patterns of urbanization, such as migration, settlement patterns, and information technology. A holistic understanding of the process is required and must be developed. The next article is shielding SEBI. SC should have pushed it to do more while not reviewing policy actions. In this article, the writer says that the Supreme Court of India has ruled in favor of the Markets Regulators Court, following allegations of corporate fraud and market manipulation by a US-based short seller at the Adani Group of companies. The court subordinated the interests of petitioners to protect larger public interest and substituted its own wisdom over the regulatory policies of the Securities and Exchange Board of India. The bench, led by Chief Justice of India D.Y. Chandrachud, criticized the regulator's conduct of its probe and dismissed the fundamental questions left as a matter between the court and SEBI. The bench also dismissed the recommendations of the expert committee, which had left the determination of possible violations to minimum public shareholding and related party transactions as a matter between the court and SEBI. The ruling has not addressed investors' concerns about SEBI's approach to getting to the bottom of the allegations raised by Hindenburg Research. The court has completed 22 out of 24 investigations into the Adani Group, with 2 remaining pending due to inputs from foreign regulators. The bench directed SEBI to complete these investigations expeditiously. The court's decision to leave the crucial question of SEBI's perceived tardiness in investigating corporate fraud and market manipulation back to the watchdog panel suggests a degree of judicial abstinence that may undermine the larger public good.